Let me tell you something up front. I didn't run from DC just to find myself in another kind of war. I didn't leave behind the swamp and all its snakes just to battle over my own damn porch. But life's funny like that. You know, you think you're escaping. The show turns out you just walked onto a new stage and the actors are meaner, prettier, and way better at smiling while they stab you in the back. And if you think for 1 second that running from trouble means it can't follow you, well, maybe you haven't met someone like Karen Drake. Lucky you. You see, after 20 years of combing through nonprofit books in the belly of the federal beast, chasing down dollars that always seemed to vanish into golf trips or catered lunches, I'd had enough. All I wanted was peace. That's it. I bought this house on the edge of Silver Pines Ridge. The view was ridiculous miles of pine trees, sunset over the valley, a kind of hush you don't find near highways or airports. Best part, no HOA. I checked. Twice. Even called a lawyer. I wanted to make sure nobody was ever going to tell me how tall my grass could be, or if my mailbox was too bold. And for a few golden weeks, it was perfect. Coffee on the deck every morning. A few neighbors here and there, retired couples with golden retrievers, folks who wore more spandex than seemed safe for public spaces. But whatever, I'm not judging. I liked the quiet. I liked being invisible. Then she showed up. Not all at once, but sort of like a scent, perfume, and power. Karen Drake, president of the Silver Pines Ridge HOA. You ever see a person glide instead of walk? That's Karen. She had that platinum hair, designer blouses, and eyes that could make a room colder just by blinking. I still remember the first time she stopped by, didn't knock. Just kind of appeared on my walkway, smiling like we were about to close a deal over brunch. She says, "Simon, right? I'm Karen, president of the HOA. Gorgeous spot you've got here. That view. Oh, it's breathtaking. No wonder I told Mr. Spencer he'd simply adore it." Now let me tell you something about people who lead with compliments. They're usually about to take something. I just said, told him what exactly. And she didn't miss a beat. Explained there was a private event tonight, state officials, judges, influential types. And oh, by the way, she'd promised someone they could have their wine on my veranda. My veranda. I told her as plainly as I could, this is private property. Nobody's having anything here without my say-so. Not Mr. Spencer, not the Pope. She tried to warn me some half-baked threat about zoning commissioners and being a good neighbor. But if there's one thing that makes me dig my heels in, it's someone telling me what I shouldn't do for my own good. She left eventually, but not before lingering on my steps like maybe she could absorb the place through her shoes. I closed the door and poured myself a glass of bourbon. I dealt with DC lobbyists less slippery than this. But here's the thing about people like Karen, they don't hear no. They hear try again. So the very next day, I'm out in my driveway and I see my gate, my brand new locked gate, standing wide open. I walked up my drive and there they were. 4 cars parked like it was valet night. Men in suits, women with wine glasses, a whole party on my deck. Someone had even set up a table, cheese plates, the works. I didn't yell. I didn't stomp my feet. I just started recording. One guy, clearly drunk on something more than wine, waved at me. "Oh, are you Simon? Karen said you wouldn't mind." That's when I told them with my phone still rolling that they had exactly 30 seconds to get off my land or I'd let the sheriff handle it. They argued, tried to claim some communal use program, but I'd already heard enough. There's no such program. And even if there was, this lot isn't part of your HOA. They shuffled out. I called the sheriff, Deputy Armitage, a good man. He just shook his head and said, "Karen again, huh?" Apparently I wasn't her first territorial misunderstanding. He took the report, but I could tell this wasn't over. That night I doubled down. New smart gate. Cameras synced to the cloud motion sensors, the whole 9 yards. If she wanted a war, she'd pick someone who never lost one. Next came the paperwork. An envelope from the HOA's legal counsel full of lawyer speak and threats. They tried to claim my deck was a community asset, that I had a shared visual easement, whatever that means. I laughed. I sent back deed records, boundary maps, court precedents, and a polite little note. Any further unauthorized use of my property will be treated as criminal trespass. The gloves were off. A day later, a neighbor, Russ, a retired engineer, barely ever spoke, cornered me at the mailbox. She tried that with the Kendricks 2 years ago. Claimed their patio was a community rest area. They planted a hedge, then sued. He grinned like he'd just given me a secret password. I realized then I wasn't alone. There were others, quiet, tired, but angry underneath. You'd think that would be enough. You'd think after the sheriff, after the legal notice, Karen would back off. Instead, it escalated. I started seeing unmarked cars parked across from my place, just sitting, engine running. Then another envelope, this one stamped, signed, official looking. Inside was a guest residence agreement with my name on it, my parcel, but not my signature. They'd forged my name. They'd even redrawn my property lines on a map. This was no accident. This was a campaign. I pulled out my old auditing skills and went over every word. The documents were a Frankenstein's monster of expired zoning laws, old drafts, legal babble that meant nothing. I started making calls, friends in state offices, contacts at the county. One even ran a search for me, and sure enough, Karen had filed bogus paperwork, using her credentials, reclassifying my property for community use. Never approved, never legal, but enough to muddy the water. So I struck back, filed my own complaints, County State Attorney General Nonprofit Abuse Division, sent letters to everyone, attached every piece of evidence. If you think paper cuts don't bleed, you've never been on the wrong end of a man with a printer and a grudge. And still, Karen kept pushing. I noticed garden torches suddenly lining a path up my hill right to my deck. Checked the cameras, 3 men, middle of the night, setting up like it was a wedding. I sent the footage to my lawyer. This was premeditated. This was crossing the line from annoying to illegal. The real twist came one night when my neighbor Lloyd dropped by, pretending to return a package. Karen's throwing another gala Saturday. Says your lower deck's open for the reception. My deck. My property. My patience snapped. Saturday came. Delivery vans, golf carts, catering crew. She wasn't playing small. As dusk fell, I watched the torches light up like a runway, guiding her guests straight onto my land. I waited until the first wave of guests, all pearls and cufflinks and fake laughs, started down the path. I stepped out, no yelling, just there, holding my deed in one hand, coffee in the other. Evening, folks. If you're here because Karen said this was community property, you've been lied to. Some laughed, nervous. Others looked for Karen. The only face I recognized was Judge Anthony Valdry, retired iron backbone, not the kind to suffer fools. He looked at my deed, looked at me, then turned to the crowd and said, "We leave. Now." The party ended. Just like that, the parade of privilege turned tail and scurried back up the slope, heels catching wine, sloshing, all dignity gone. I filed every bit of footage, every name, every trespass, sent it to the HOA, the county, and the judge. 3 days later, I got a letter hand-delivered from Judge Valdry himself. Apology accepted. Respect given. Suddenly, I wasn't just fighting for myself. I had allies, the legal kind. But Karen, she doubled down. I started digging into the HOA's financials, public record if you know where to look. I found a slush fund, over $60,000 missing under guest services, routed through fake nonprofits tied to Karen's son. Classic fraud. I packaged it all up, sent it to my old friend Amy at the state enforcement office. Within days, an inquiry started. Karen's grip was slipping. That's when the compliance inspection happened. 3 guys with clipboards taking photos, trying to look inside my garage. I filmed every second, sent it to Amy. By the end of the week, I'd filed 2 more complaints, one for defamation, one to audit the HOA's nonprofit status. I put up one last camera aimed right at the back trail and waited. Court day came, a rainy Thursday fitting. Karen showed up late, her lawyer swaggering, waving bylaws like they were the 10 Commandments. I didn't rant. I just walked the judge through everything: trespassing, fake documents, the phony guest agreement, the forged maps, the money trail to Karen's family, and then the cherry on top, the letter from Judge Valdry. The judge allowed it. Karen cracked, tried to claim I was against the spirit of the community. The judge cut her off. Do you have any documentation proving ownership? Karen had nothing. The room went silent. 3 days later, the ruling came. Karen and the HOA were found liable: trespass, forgery, defamation. I got my damages and, best of all, legal independence. No more HOA ever. Karen's lawyer filed an appeal, but the damage was done. The state launched a full audit. Karen's world started collapsing. A white rose appeared on my gate. No note, just the flower, a silent surrender from someone in the neighborhood. The news ran the story. Board members resigned, cops showed up at the HOA office with a search warrant. Karen. She was arrested right there on the curb, sunglasses on, waving her hands while the cameras rolled. I watched it all from my porch, sipping coffee, finally able to laugh. A few weeks later, the HOA was gone, dissolved. Silver Pines Ridge, for the first time in decades, was free. No more inspections, no more compliance checks, just quiet, honest people relieved it was over. But it didn't really end. Not for me. People started coming, neighbors who'd spent years keeping their heads down, afraid to speak up. They asked for help. How did you do it? How do I fight back? I set up an old guest house as a makeshift civic integrity office. It was half joke, half mission. Folks from all over started showing up with boxes of documents, fake fines, and stories of their own battles. I showed them how to respond, how to file complaints, how to fight. You want to know the real lesson? It isn't that the powerful always win, it's that they depend on everyone else being quiet. Karen wasn't defeated because I had money or because I was a legal expert. She lost because she bet on fear and lost when someone refused to play along. She moved away eventually. I heard she started a consulting gig in Arizona. Old habits die hard. Her son vanished. The nonprofits were shut down. My property ironclad. No more threats, no more visits. Just peace. The silence these days feels earned, not anxious. I rebuilt my fence, put up a sign, private property, not for Karen's guests, not today, not ever. Some mornings I still get visitors, a neighbor with questions, someone needing advice. I don't mind. We're stronger together now. The only thing I regret is not standing up sooner. But hey, better late than never. So what do you think? Where's the line between protecting a community and abusing power? Have you ever had to fight for something that should have been yours from the start? I'd like to hear your story. Maybe you've tangled with a Karen, or maybe you've been one yourself once or twice. We've all got fences to defend sooner or later. Let me know where you stand.